All right, Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net. I wanted to put this video together to talk about the glove side and arm path and the connection between the two. They really serve completely different purposes, but they're supporting the same thing, right? They're supporting transfer of energy. The glove side in the delivery initially acts more like a guide to locate and command your pitches, and then becomes a fulcrum to support the angular movements and create stability. The arm path, what we know, is there to help deliver the energy up the kinetic chain into the ball. We do know that there's two types of energy in the body. There's kinetic energy, energy coming from the ground up your body, and then there's the arm strength aspect of it when your arm lays back and just pulling it forward. Ideally, when you have a good efficient kinetic chain, you want the arm strength and the kinetic energy to meet together. And that's something that we're going to cover here. We're going to talk about the relationship between glove side and arm path. Now, when we separate our hands, they're both now going into their positions to perform their jobs. The glove side, like I said, is going to help and kind of guide as we stay closed off into where we're going, help us kind of command our pitches. At the same time, too, it's got to get prepared for its other job, which comes into the fulcrum aspect that we'll talk about in creating stability. So when we break our hands and line up our glove side, we do want to help. We want to create some tension here, a little bit of tension, so you can line up glove side and pinch your scap slightly to create a little tension, right? As we go into front foot strike, because you don't want to be flopping all over the place. You want some stability in it going into front foot strike. The arm at that time, as we separate the hands, it's going to get in a flex position, and I go more in detail on how it needs to be flexed and where it needs to be at front foot strike. I'm not going to do that here. You can search that online and find my explanation of that. But it's going to get into a flex position, so as we go into front foot strike, it can be in a position to be ready to cock and ride the trunk energy going forward. So that's going to be going into its position. So let's go back to the front foot. When we land at front foot, glove side is going to want to stabilize at front foot. So we're going to hit front foot, and just like we need to stabilize the lower half to help transfer energy, we're going to stabilize the glove side to also allow us to create more energy. So we're in that pinch scap, we hit front foot. We should not pull our glove side yet, because we want to delay rotation in the trunk to help bring all that kinetic energy up to the ball. So when we hit front foot strike, we can have it pinched and loaded. We want it to be strong, so when we land, and then it can turn over and it creates a little fulcrum for that angular rotation of the shoulder. So we're going to hit front foot strike. It's going to turn over. It doesn't need to pull. Definitely doesn't need to pull. It's just going to turn over and create a fulcrum. What's a fulcrum? It's a point of rotation. It's a pivot point. We need that. It's going to that stability of it coming from all the way in the ground. The foot, the thigh, and the arm. That stability is going to allow all this energy to come from the backside where we generated off the mound and transfer up the chain. So that's its job. Then the arm, once that's stabilized, the arm's going to cock into position, so when we go into shoulder rotation, it can get up and lay back, and the act of it laying back now allows the trunk to push all that kinetic energy to the ball before the arm goes in to rotation, okay? But the key here is, now that you know the two functions, is making sure they're working together and they're supporting each other. If this starts to disconnect and pull away, and try to create the angular momentum, then we can get into bad positions where the arm starts dragging and then the arm starts pushing, and those are a lot of the bad forces that the studies show cause a lot of the arm injury. So we got to make sure when we go into front foot that the job of the glove side is to stabilize and help us command the pitch, turn over and create a fulcrum, more stability to allow all that angular momentum coming and linear momentum coming from off the rubber, accelerate to pitch release. And we can't allow it to do anything else like pull and generate the angular rotation to disrupt the timing of the arm path with the trunk path to allow the trunk more time as it lays back to push energy up and kinetic energy through before the arm strength, the internal rotation forces, can come in and support that movement. So, you know, things like sitting in front of a mirror and doing things where you're internally rotated here, you're externally rotated here. It's like some approaches call it opposite and equal. That's good to do, and this stays scap loaded, going into front foot. And then when you land, just a turn over, kind of like making a muscle as this comes up, because this is going to want to rotate. As this comes up and lays back, you can practice these things where you're doing this to close off internal to external, and you're closing your shoulders, loading your scaps, and then when you hit front foot, turning this over before shoulder rotation, creating stability, and then as this rotates, this comes up and lays back. So doing things like this in the mirror, with your hips open, practicing hip to shoulder separation, and then as you hit front foot, you're stabilizing glove side, and this is coming up for lay back. These are things, and notice the connection between the two. Even though they're doing opposite things, they're working together. So when this goes down, this goes back, down, back, and then when this turns over, this comes up, down, up, down, up. Notice the connection between the two is really important, because if I'm doing this and then I'm late to do this, now I've got all these dragging problems and forces on the front of my shoulder and elbow. So if these aren't connected and how they're moving, like this, we're going to have problems. Everything's going to be out of sync and pushing and working separately and independent of each other. We want them all working together here, working together here to help the kinetic chain sync together and work together to efficiently, like I said, bring that kinetic energy into the arm strength energy at the end to maximize velocity and it be healthy velocity.